All right, let's jump right in. We are absolutely surrounded by writing every single day, right? But have you ever really stopped to think about how different it all is? I mean, a text message and a textbook, they're worlds apart. We're constantly switching between these different linguistic codes, and in this explainer, we're going to crack those codes together.
You know, when Hamlet says this, he's pretending to be mad, but honestly, it's a feeling we can all relate to. Sometimes, language just feels like this overwhelming jumble of words. But it's not. There's a system, a structure, a set of invisible rules that are running the show behind everything we write and read.
And that really gets to the heart of it, doesn't it? The answer isn't just about using bigger words or being more formal. It's all about your purpose, your audience, and the context. You're actually using two entirely different codes, and each one is designed for a very specific job. Understanding how to switch between them, that's a true communication superpower.
So, here's our game plan. We'll start with the absolute basics, the building blocks of all language. Then we'll look at the rules for putting them together. After that, we'll dive into three totally different codes: academic, narrative, and our everyday writing. And finally, we'll see why knowing all this is so incredibly powerful. Okay, first things first. Before we can really get into the differences in all this writing, we need to look at what they all have in common. What's the fundamental, universal foundation that all written language is built on?
Well, it all comes down to this little thing, the morpheme. Think of it like an atom of meaning. So the word unhappiness isn't just one solid block. It's actually three distinct pieces of meaning working together. You've got un, which means not. You've got happy, which is the root idea, and you have ness, which turns it into a state or a condition. Every single word we use is built from these tiny, powerful units.
So, if morphemes are the atoms, how do we assemble them into molecules and all these complex structures? Well, we need a set of rules, right? A blueprint for building meaning. The Hatter, in his own wonderfully bonkers way, actually hits on something crucial about language. The order of our words is everything. You can take the exact same words, just rearrange them, and you get entirely different meanings. And this isn't random. It's all governed by a system we all just intuitively understand.
And that system has a name. It's called syntax. It's like the invisible architecture of our sentences. We don't actively think about it, but our brains are constantly applying these complex syntactic rules to make sure the dog chases the cat means something completely different from the cat chases the dog. This is the universal grammar that's behind all of our code.
Okay, foundations are set. Let's look at our first specific code, academic writing. Its main goal, its prime directive, isn't to entertain you or connect emotionally. It's all about informing with as much precision and objectivity as humanly possible.
Now, take a look at this sentence. It feels instantly formal, right? Instantly academic. But why? What specific features in there are sending that signal to our brains?
This is where you see all the machinery at work. First, the passive voice. It has been argued that removes the person doing the arguing to keep the focus on the argument itself. Then you've got hedging words like would eventually. They soften the claim, showing caution. You use precise, formal words like reunification. And notice the total lack of I think. It's all working towards one single goal, presenting information as impartially as possible.
And this idea of being cautious leads us to a key tool in academic writing, hedging. Now, it might sound weak, but it's actually a sign of intellectual strength and honesty. Using words like may or suggests shows that you recognize that knowledge isn't always set in stone, and that claims have to be made carefully and accurately.
All right, let's completely switch gears to a totally different code with a totally different goal. Narrative writing. It's not about objective facts, it's all about subjective experience. Its whole purpose is to pull the reader into a world and tell them a story. Just look at this incredible comparison. On the left, you've got Old English, from way back. It looks like a completely foreign language, right? But its function is identical to a modern news story. And notice how different its features are from that academic code. It uses the active voice, Hengist and Aske fought. It names names. It lists specific actions. The goal isn't to be impartial. It's to create a clear record of who did what and when. The form has changed dramatically, but that narrative impulse is exactly the same. And finally, let's explore the code that we probably use more than any other. This is the language of our texts, our emails, our social media posts. It's built for speed, for efficiency, and for keeping up those social connections. It is the code of immediacy. This contrast just says it all. The formal request is polite, it's clear, it leaves nothing to chance. But the informal one, it's a powerful shortcut. It assumes a huge amount of shared context, that the other person knows who me is, which exact report you're talking about, and what EOD means. It's all about speed and reinforcing a close relationship where those kinds of shortcuts are totally understood.
This reliance on shortcuts brings us to jargon, or argot. It's the specialized language of a specific group. So whether you're a doctor talking about a stat consult or a gamer talking about a nerf, your community has a unique vocabulary. And it does two things at once. It's an efficient way to communicate, and it's a powerful signal that you belong. It says, hey, I'm one of you.
And these in-group codes can be incredibly creative and playful. I mean, just look at Cockney rhyming slang. It's this clever, almost poetic system that turns everyday language into a fun puzzle that only insiders can solve. It just proves that our informal codes aren't lazy or some kind of degradation of language. They're often vibrant, complex, and absolutely full of life.
So, we've looked at 3 very different codes, each with its own rule book and its own purpose. But why does any of this matter? Well, because the ability to understand them, and more importantly, to switch between them, is one of the most essential skills you can possibly have.
So here's the bottom line. Mastering these codes gives you power. It's what lets you write a compelling paper for school, a captivating story, and a clear, effective email to your boss. It's the key to making sure your message always lands exactly the way you intend it to with the exact audience you're trying to reach.
And in the end, that's what all these codes really are. They're not just some dry rules in a grammar book. As Walt Whitman so beautifully put it, they are the living, breathing results of our very human need to share, to explain, and to connect with each other across generations.
Which leaves us with one last thought to chew on. From the very first cave paintings to today's instant messaging, our tools for writing are always evolving. So what's next? What new codes are we creating right now, with emojis, with memes, even with AI? And how will they shape the way we all communicate in the future?